What is up? And today we're going to get into that horrible loss by the Atlanta Falcons. But before we get started, I just want to tell you guys to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share this with your friends and family, and to continue to support my channel. We are going to get into that horrible loss by those Atlanta Falcons to those Saints. Horrible loss. Horrible loss to those Saints. Those New Orleans Saints. I don't know what look. As an Atlanta Falcon fan, there is nothing that pains me more, that angers me, that gets me in a bad mood more than losing to the New Orleans Saints. I hate the New Orleans Saints. I despise them. I hate that corny who dat chant. I hate those ugly black and gold jerseys. I hate them. I hate them. I can't tell you guys how much I hate them. But I gotta admit this. I kind of saw this loss coming. I did. I saw this loss coming a mile away, unfortunately. And as you guys know, on the last episode that I did, I kind of warned the Atlanta Falcons to not take these New Orleans Saints lightly, just because they've been dealing with some turmoil and losing and bad things. You know, look, things haven't gone to New Orleans Saints' way. They've lost 7 in a row for a reason. But as I've stated the case, when it comes to Falcon Saints, you got to take the records out. You got to take what both teams have done previously out the window, because every game between these two teams is just gonna be close. Every game is just gonna be close, and this game was no different. And I knew that after the Saints fired Dennis Allen, that they were gonna come out with the new sense of energy and purpose and passion and just sheer want to. And that's exactly what they did earlier in that game. They came out with some new spirit, and they were ready to play football. They were ready. And the Atlanta Falcons got hit in the mouth early, and it took them a little while. It probably took them until around maybe like the second quarter or so for them to finally respond and get their heads in the game and try to make this a game, which they ultimately did. But this was a disgusting bad loss, no matter how you slice it. So frustrating, but it was frustrating to watch. And there's a lot of blame to throw around when you look at why the Falcons had this bad performance. You know, they end up losing the game 17-20. And the Falcons had their chances. They didn't play great, and they had their chances to win the game. And equally frustrating when you look at this showing is the fact that the Falcons, they actually outgained the Saints in total yards. The Falcons had 468 total yards. The New Orleans Saints had 365. So we're talking about a 103 yard difference between the two teams. The Falcons also had more first downs than the Saints. The Falcons had 25 first downs. 25. The Saints only had 14. The Falcons won the time of possession battle. I think the Falcons had the ball for I want to say it was around like 34 minutes or so, something like that, 34-25 or 36-24. It was somewhere in the mid-30s. I can't remember. But they outgained them in total time of possession. And the Falcons dominated running the ball, which is really the bright spot that the Falcons had throughout this day. They ran the ball well. Bijan Robinson, who I will get to in a moment, was great. The Falcons had 198 yards rushing. And so the Falcons did some good things in this game. But ultimately, when I look at the blame, if I want to point blame, we got to start with my boy Younghoe Koo. Look, man, Younghoe Koo's had some great moments in his Falcon career, but yesterday was not one of them. He was bad. He was bad. Younghoe Koo in that game against the Saints was bad. We talking about 3 field goal misses. I think one of them was blocked. I mean, it was. Look, I hate to admit this when it comes to Younghoe Koo, but my man has been struggling lately when it comes to kicking field goals. He's been struggling. Over the last 5 games, he's now 8 for 15 on field goals. 8 for 15. It's been not good. It's not good. He's struggling. It feels like he's in a wall right now when it comes to field goal kicking. He can't. It's frustrating because earlier in the year against these same New Orleans Saints, by the way, he made 4 field goals for us to win the game against the Saints earlier this year. I think it was week 4. And we won against the Saints in part because he made 4 field goals. But ever since that game, he's been struggling. He's really been struggling, and the game against the Saints finally was the game that ended up catching up with us with his struggles. It felt like that game against the Saints was finally the game that Younghoe Koo missing kicks caught up to us. Unfortunately, it's just he missed 3 field goals, and you just think about it like this: if he makes even 2 of the 3 field goals, we're talking about the Falcons winning the game in all likelihood. And so it's tough. It's tough to see, the field goal kicker let us, just kind of have a down moment and have a bad moment in a game that we wanted to get. Because, look, there's nothing more gut-wrenching and nauseating than losing to the New Orleans Saints. Atlanta Falcon fans know this. It is painful. It hurts. I can't even put into words how bad losing that game was. To see the Saints finally break their 7-game losing streak, and for them to finally break it against the Atlanta Falcons, it hurts. It's depressing right now. I'm not feeling too good right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not feeling too good about this loss. I'm not feeling it. But Younghoe Koo, he's got to get it together. He has to get this together. He's got to find a way to get out of this lull that he's been in over these past several weeks, because it's not good, and we don't want Younghoe Koo costing us more games because of his missed field goals. So he's got to get it together. But he's not the only person to blame for this loss. The Falcons offense, even though they had a lot of yards in this game, they had a lot of miscues as well. Kirk Cousins, Cousins, he wasn't sharp. As much as it pains me to say with Kirk Cousins, he wasn't sharp in this game early on. Early in the first quarter, he was inaccurate. He was overthrowing people. I think there were a couple of times where he had Darnell Mooney kind of open and he overthrows him or underthrows him. There was another play early in the game where he overthrows Drake London and he has to catch it with he has to catch the ball with one hand, and it ends up being a drop because he didn't have full control of the ball early in that game. And so Kirk Cousins wasn't particularly sharp early in the game. That was a problem. Uh, Also, the batted balls from the offensive line, allowing the Saints to bat a few passes from Kirk Cousins. I remember there was a play where the Falcons could have had a touchdown. Drake London was open in the end zone, and the ball, Kirk Cousins tries to double pump the ball, and the ball ends up getting batted down, right? And so it was just the offense just wasn't crisp at different portions of the game. Kirk Cousins has to be more accurate. The offensive line also has to. I don't think they were great in this game either. The Saints end up getting a couple of key sacks, especially late in the game. That wasn't good. And I mentioned the batted balls that the Falcons offensive line allowed the Saints to have. And look, that last play of the game, when the Falcons had the chance to drive down the field and get points on the board or possibly score a touchdown to win the game against Saints, because despite the Falcons' mistakes, they made this a game. Like, this was a tight game. And I predicted this on the last episode that I did, that I thought that this game was going to be tight. And boy, it was tight and intense, and it was the typical normal Falcons Saints game. And so, the Falcons had their chances, and Kirk Cousins, unfortunately, he throws an interception late in the game because he was trying to force the ball to Drake London when he had Kyle Pitts open underneath. And so Kirk Cousins has to be better. He was not sharp, for different portions of the game. The offensive line, I thought, they weren't great either. And so the offense, to me, deserves some blame as well. And defensively, when it comes to the Falcons losing this game, all three phases had their part in it. It was not one person to blame. All three, units had their parts in it. And defense. The defense is, in particular in the first half, was terrible. It was terrible. I mean, we're talking about a New Orleans Saints team that are missing a couple of offensive linemen. They're also missing their two starting wide receivers. And the New Orleans Saints scored 17 points in the first half. 17 points. And in that first half, they made this guy, Martez Donvez Scatling, I think that's his name. Like, we made this dude look like Calvin Johnson with the way he was making deep passes, completing deep balls from Derek Carr. I mean, I'm looking at this dude. I'm like, what are we doing? Who is this guy? And he was just making plays down the field consistently. He got a deep touchdown over AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons. I'm like, what's up? What are we doing? The one thing that the defense was actually doing pretty well this season was not giving up deep passing plays. We gave up, was it 3, 2 in the first half? I mean, what are we doing? And so the defense wasn't, to me, the defense I thought was really bad, in the first half, just giving up big passing plays. And also, like, there was another play in the game where what's my man's name? I can't even remember. I can't remember the man's name from the Saints. It'll come back to me. But they gave up a potentially another touchdown that was called back. And so the Falcons defense, I thought, was very sluggish early in the game. So like I said, the Falcons, for all three phases, offense, defense, special teams, they weren't good enough in it for decent portions of this game. I mean, that's just the reality. Now, the defense did tighten up in the second half. The Saints scored 17 points in the first half. The Falcons defense held them to 3 points in the second half. And so, I'll give the Falcons defense credit. Like they kept the Falcons in the game and allowed the Falcons to have opportunities to win. And so credit the Falcons defense for that. But hey, the first half of this game, the defense did not do their part at all. And so this was a bad loss. This was a bad loss. Now, the good news for the Falcons is, despite the Falcons losing this game to the Saints, they're 6-4, and they still have a 3-game lead in their division because Tampa Bay lost to the San Francisco 49ers, right? And so the Falcons still have a comfortable lead in their division. That's a good thing. And I'm happy about that. But that game against the Saints was terrible. It was terrible. It was bad. And losing to the Saints, it puts a knot in my stomach. I don't feel good. I'm never in a good mood when the Falcons lose games, especially to that team. And so it's not a good feeling right now. It's tough. But there were, at the same time, look, there were also some bright spots in this game as well. It wasn't all bad. There were some bright spots in this game. And look, I want to give a shout out to Bijan Robinson. He had a big day, at least. He had 105 yards rushing, and I think he had 17 carries for 105 yards or something like that. So he had a big day. He continues to showcase what a stud running back that he is. He's doing this every week. Just making plays in the passing game. He's running the football. He had a long touchdown that made the game 20-17. And this is a guy that's he's shifty, quick. He can burst through the hole. And if you just give him some space, he's tough. He's hard to bring. He's everything. He's fast. He's explosive. He's strong. He can juke. He can spin. He can do everything. Bijan Robinson he's special. And he was the reason why the Falcons were in this game. Still, despite the bad miscues and mistakes that the Falcons were having. And so, Bijan Robinson, this is a guy that I said it early in the year. He's the best running back in football. And look, he had a little bit of a little mini slump or so for a couple of games or so, but make no mistake about it, this is now his 5th straight game that he's had over 100 yards combined passing and receiving. This is Bijan Robinson we're talking about here. I mean, the guy is the best. He's playing like the best running back in football. With all due respect to players like Derrick Henry, because I think he's the other guy that's playing at a high level. Shout out to him for the Baltimore Ravens, and he's doing this thing with Lamar Jackson. But Bijan Robinson, and also I want to mention Saquon Barkley as well for Philadelphia. He's playing great too. I can't forget about Saquon Barkley. He's doing this thing. But Bijan Robinson is up there with them two individuals. He is special. He's a special player. Special. And I'm glad that he's an Atlanta Falcon because that brother is special. But, and look, also, Darnell Mooney, I thought, made some big plays in this game as well. So shout out to him. Drake London had made some plays. But ultimately, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because the Atlanta Falcons they didn't get it done. They weren't on their P's and Q's in this game. And they, like I warned them, I thought they took this Saints football team a little bit for granted. They were, the Saints had their issues. They fired Dennis Allen. They traded Marshawn Lattimore. They were going through some internal drama, and we were just laughing and giggling and making fun of the Saints. But hey, as is always the case in the NFL, when you fire your previous coach and a new guy comes in, especially on that first game, there's just a renewed energy, passion, and just some renewed spark And that's what we saw from the New Orleans Saints. Like, they came into the game with just this pressure-free attitude of like, you know what, we just gonna play hard, and we gonna let everything fall where they may, and we just gonna come out and we just gonna play hard, and whatever happens happens. And that's what they did. They played their butts off, and the Atlanta Falcons weren't ready for the intensity that the Saints brought, and we got sent home with an L. There's just nothing else to say about that. Falcons they got what, unfortunately, the Atlanta Falcons got what they deserved, a loss. And we just got to suck it in, and we just got to deal with it. We just got to learn from it. Because coming up, we have the Denver Broncos, who, look, I don't know if y'all saw what Denver did to Kansas City, but they ended up losing, but they should have won that game. They should have beaten the Chiefs. They had a chance to kick the game-winning field goal, and the field goal got blocked, unfortunately. And now the Kansas City Chiefs are still undefeated, and Denver's 5-5. But they're a good team. The Denver Broncos are a good team. Make no mistake about it. Their defense is elite. Bo Nix is steadily getting better each week as a rookie quarterback. And Sean Payton, he's still one of the best coaches in the league. As a Falcon fan, I can attest to, because of what he was doing for the New Orleans Saints, unfortunately. And so Falcons got a tough game ahead of them against the Denver Broncos. That defense is elite, and they're a well-coached team. And the Falcons are going to be ready, because you're going up to Denver, and that's not an easy place to win. And so that's who the Falcons have coming up next. And hey, let's see what happens. Let's see what the Falcons can do if they can bounce back from this bad loss that they took. But that's all I got for today. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode.